Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be talking about downward dog. Now I know a lot of us obviously do a lot of downward dogs in our yoga classes, but also some of us will do downward dogs as part of our stretching routines before a workout to warm up our hamstrings. So there is no doubt that a lot of us can benefit from this pose. But if you think that downward dog is all about the hamstrings, you might want to think about that again, because there is actually a lot more going on in downward dog than just the hamstrings that are working. So before we get started, make sure you are subscribing to my channel and that you turn on your notifications, and I'll really appreciate your support. And now we can get started. So meet me on the mat. We'll actually put together the upward facing dog that we went over in the last video and this downward dog. So we'll put together a small flow. So it's gonna be fun and short. So watch on and let's get started. So starting in our downward dog pose, a lot of times when I teach students, I notice that they're trying so hard to straighten at their legs and place both of their feet on the floor. While they're doing that, they're actually compensating their backs and their shoulders, and it kind of looks more like a modified plank than a downward dog. So know that in downward dog, our focus is actually on the back. Our primary focus when we do downward dog is to be able to shoot the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Now, if you're trying so hard to straighten through the legs, it's actually restricting you from lifting your tailbone up towards the ceiling. So if we let go of the idea that we need to straighten through the legs and we bend through the knees so that it frees up our hamstrings, now we're in a better position to lift our tailbone up towards the ceiling. Now we're also in a better position to bring our belly towards the thighs as close as we can, because we want to practice our hip flexion as well in downward dog. And once you're in the pose, then try to straighten through your legs and place the entire feet onto the mat. So to recap, the primary focus of downward dog is actually in our spine, in our low back. We want to achieve the natural curves of our spine in downward dog. We want to work on our hip flexion, and then secondary would be straightening through the legs. So if we try this one more time, get into your downward dog. But this time we're bending more at the knees and we're shooting that tailbone up towards the ceiling. Now our downward dog is more stable and we're more able to work on that hip flexion. And once we're in the pose and over time and with practice, we're more able to straighten through the legs. And that's when you can actually take care of the hip flexion, the spine, and the hamstrings in downward dog. Now, what happens in the upper part of downward dog? We want to really press through the fingers, press through the finger mounds, and especially the pinky side, because we want to be able to rotate our arms inwards. This is going to help us stabilize through the shoulder blades, because downward dog is actually an arm balance too, and an inversion. So if we want a stable downward dog, we want the upper body to be stable as well. And how we're going to do that is by really pressing the fingers into the mat, especially the pinky side. Visualize your upper arm kind of rotating in, and then all that stuff that I was just talking about, shooting the tailbone up towards the ceiling. And the other thing is that we want to place our ears in between our upper arms. So as you can see, there is actually a lot going on in downward dog. Don't keep that idea that in a downward dog you have to place both of your feet on the floor. Free up that hamstring, focus on building that hip flexion and getting to that natural curve of the spine, and you'll get more out of your downward dog. So I said we were going to put together what we learned last time. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will place the link above. So putting together what we learned last time with the upward facing dog and downward dog. Let's start with the Sphinx pose. We're placing the forearms onto the mat, lifting through the chest, breathing for 1, 2, and 3, Inhale, lift through the chest. Exhale, we're gonna come up to a downward facing dog. So come on up to your down dog. Remember, you don't have to place both your feet onto the mat. Bend more through the knees, free up those hamstrings. Focus on that spine lifting up. And breathe for 3, 2, and 1. We're gonna exhale and come back to that high plank pose. Come on all the way down onto the belly. Inhale, we're squeezing the shoulder blades together, lifting through the chest, keeping those elbows bent. Exhale, come on back up to downward facing dog. So once again, we're letting go of that idea that our legs need to be straight, bending more through the knees. Shoot that tailbone up towards the ceiling and press into those finger mounds. Press into that pinky. Keep that shoulder stable to support yourself. And let's breathe for 2 more. And 1. Come on back to your high plank. Exhale, come on all the way down. Leaving those hands beside the rib cage, we're gonna lift our chest up, straighten through the elbows, lift the thighs, and into our upward facing dog. Exhale, come on back up to your downward dog. So first bending through the knees, maybe this time once you're in the pose, once you have that spine and you're lifting that tailbone up towards the ceiling, then try to straighten through your knees as much as you can. Challenge yourself if you feel like it. And breathe for another 2. And 1. Come on back, cross your legs, and we'll come to sitting. I hope this inspires you to think of downward dog in a different way. It's not entirely about straightening your legs, putting your feet on the floor. So focus on getting that neutral spine, those natural curves of your spine, and focus on shooting that tailbone up. Focus on that hip flexion, so bringing the belly towards the thighs. Focus on your upper body strength as well, making those shoulders really stable to support yourself. And that is it for today's video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. Please leave me a comment to let me know if you learned a thing or two from the video. Share this with your friends who are also starting their yoga journey or not, or they just do downward dog in their workout routines, which is actually what a lot of people do. Check out my next video. It will be posted very soon, and come back, subscribe, turn on your notifications, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.